شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان فمن شهد منكم الشهر فليصمه ومن كان مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر يريد الله بكم اليسر ولا يريد بكم العسر ولتكملوا العدة ولتكبروا الله على ما هداكم ولعلكم تشكرون وإذا سألك عبادي عني فإني قريب أجيب دعوة الداعي إذا دعان فليستجيبوا لي وليؤمنوا بي لعلهم يرشدون صدق الله العلي العظيم. O you who believe, fasting is prescribed for you, as it was prescribed for those before you, so you may guard against evil. For a certain number of days, but whoever amongst you is sick or on a journey, then he shall fast a like number of other days. And those who are not able to do it may effect a redemption by feeding a poor man. So whoever does good spontaneously, it is better for him. And that you fast is better for you if you know. The month of Ramadan is that in which the Quran was revealed, a guidance to men and clear proofs of the guidance and the distinction. Therefore, whoever of you is present in the month, he shall fast therein, and whoever is sick or upon a journey, then he shall fast a like number of other days. God desires ease for you, and He does not desire for you difficulty. And He desires that you should complete the number, and that you should exalt the greatness of God for His having guided you, and that you may give thanks. And when my servant asks you concerning me, then surely I am very near. I answer the prayer of the supplicant when he calls on me. So they should answer my call and believe in me, that they may walk in the right way. The Holy Quran, chapter 2, verses 183 to verse 186.
Thank you, Muhammad. It always makes my throat go looking at fasting people. The Big Iftar is an outreach project to open the doors of mosques and Islamic centres to non-Muslims, but also for Muslims to go out and share their positive role in society. And I wanted to share a couple of observations with you on positive effects that Muslims have in society as a whole, and particularly during the month of Ramadan. Now, as you know, Muslims generally eat a lot of sheep, and I've noticed that there have been no major stampedes of sheep in English cities in the last 40 years. I put this down to Islam and Muslims, because we can all make claims for our faiths, can't we? During the month of Ramadan, we use less water, and you'll notice there have been no hosepipe bans yet during the month of July. Again, Muslims have arranged this for our digestion improves, and therefore we are producing 1.8% less greenhouse gases as a nation. We do this free of charge, and we don't expect gratitude. In reality, of course, Muslims are the largest givers of charity to all causes, measured by independent figures. Because, as you heard in the verses of the Quran, if you can't fast, you must feed the poor. It usually comes down to, if you can't do a religious act, you have to feed poor people, you have to give in charity. And if you want charity from God, you must be generous in giving. But it's now my very pleasant duty to introduce our first speaker for this evening. Because of course I'm not speaking, I'm just popping up to make comments and observations whenever I feel like it. I am your tyrant for this evening. Until the azan is called, you must all obey me. I'll try and think of something for you to do later. So let me introduce Mrs. Mahdiya Abdul Hussein, who is not only a student at this institution, but is from a family of scholars and alims. Mrs. Abdul Hussein, please.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Once the Prophet was asked by his companion, "What is the essence of religion? What does submission to God mean?" And so the Prophet replied, "Religion is encompassed in two things. Give the rights of God to God, and give the rights of the other to the other." What he was trying to say is that these two aspects of the right of God and the right of man actually go hand in hand. It is not possible to achieve the pleasure of God or to fulfill your duty as a Muslim by prioritizing one over the other. Now, when we look at fasting in Islam, we find that it has the very same dual-purpose approach. On the one hand, it seeks to make us aware of God, and on the other hand, it promotes altruism and fosters love for our neighbor. With regards to fasting, the verse of the Quran says, "O you who believe, fasting is prescribed for you, as it was prescribed for those before you, so that you may become God-conscious." We find that just as the Quran says, spiritual practices and the practice of fasting is not limited to the Muslim community. Rather, it is valued in a variety of different faiths. The whole formalistic practice of such acts of devotion in Islam drives at the essence of godliness. When we talk about godliness, we find that it comprises of both an inner state of righteousness and an awareness of God in our daily lives, and also an outer state of care for the other, regardless of their status or their gender, or even their religious inclination. Now, when we apply this to fasting, we find that it is by no means limited to the physical abstention of food and drink. In fact, according to the prophetic narration, the lowest form of fasting is when a person only finds hunger and thirst from his fast. What fasting actually does is it enables us to be humble and to look towards those who are less fortunate, and to feel their hunger and to feel their thirst. And as a result, we are motivated in feeding them and highlighting their plight. There is a supplication from the great-grandson of the Prophet, the Imam of the Shia, which is to be repeated after every daily prayer in the month of Ramadan. In it, we state, "O Lord, enrich every poor person. O Lord, feed every hungry person. O Lord, clothe every unclothed one." The purpose of this prayer and the emphasis on its repetition is to encourage altruism. In a world where there is so much suffering and so much poverty, it is only natural to become both disenchanted with the world and to become desensitized to the plight of others. Both of these things lead to inactivity. We become despondent and we feel that there is nothing that we can do. Here we see the true beauty and value of Ramadan. The constant repetition of the prayer coupled with the feeling of hunger through fasting, reminds us of the troubles of others and motivates us into action. The supplicator actually becomes the agent of God in helping the needy, in feeding the poor, and in clothing the poor. There is no reason for us to limit this concern and care for the other to those who are less fortunate than us. Instead, it should be extended to everybody, both in our immediate community and in the wider human community. Given that this is the Big Iftar, it is appropriate to conclude with a saying of the Prophet. Whoever invites a person for iftar, the Almighty Allah will bestow on him goodness and blessing. And if you are not able to do this, then offer just half a date or even a glass of water. Thank you for your time.
I think I could ask my Shia brothers certainly to give a big salawat for that. Or at least a widely mumbled one. There's no small act in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alhamdulillah. Next, I have the pleasure of inviting a Christian speaker to stand. Of course, Christian understanding of fasting will be different from the Muslim understanding, but we find information in all faiths and insights. Reverend Richard Sutherland.
Assalamu alaikum. And shalom and shanti. Thank you for the privilege of this invitation to the Big Iftar. With my work, both in Sparkbrook and the Queen's Foundation, not so far from here, I've been getting to know staff and students here at the Al-Mahdi Institute. It's been a real pleasure to work with them and discover the good work that they're doing in learning and bringing that learning into wider encounters with other faith communities. What do Christians say about fasting? Well, I'll begin with some words from Jesus. It's from the Injil, from the Gospels, and this particular saying is from what is known as the Sermon on the Mount. And just a brief saying from this Sermon on the Mount. It's Jesus speaking. And whenever you fast, do not look dismal like the hypocrites, for they disfigure their faces so as to show others that they are fasting. Truly I tell you, they have received their reward. But when you fast, put oil on your head and wash your face, so that your fasting may be seen not by others, but by your Father who is in secret. And your Father who sees in secret will reward you. Now, I could be naughty at the expense of my own community and say, when other religious traditions say, you Christians, when do you pray and fast? Well, it's because we're doing it in secret. That's our excuse. The reality is, different Christians fast in many different ways. And there is something about that need not to make a show of it being something that somehow is a transaction with God. That the sacrifice, the physical sacrifice, is not one that can be a place for kind of self-righteousness of, well, I'm beating myself up and therefore somehow God will be pleased with me. And that motive somehow in the place of fasting needs to be uncovered. And therefore the challenge is to a real and honest placing in vulnerability before God. We inherit and are indebted to the Hebrew scriptures for some prophetic guidance on fasting, where you get the Hebrew prophets like Isaiah and Amos speaking to God's people and saying, actually, why would God listen to you when the poor are going hungry? Why fast? Why pray and make that physical sacrifice when the neighbour outside is being oppressed? And somehow, inextricably with the task of fasting in Christianity, has to be the challenge of the poor and the vulnerable. That actually, in the sacrifice of physical denial, that it's not just a personal transaction with God, coming before God in vulnerability, but we're shown the world at large, and that actually love of God is inextricably entwined with love of neighbour. I think a key aspect of fasting for Christians, and I hear resonances with what has just been shared as well, is actually that sense in which we're reminded that we are utterly dependent on God, stripped away physically, and each of us, we know when we do fast, it's hard work. Jesus says, do not look dismal, and I think there was the habit of wearing sackcloth and ashes, and I think our modern equivalent will be, make sure you're looking trim and feeling, to all intents and purposes, looking okay. But we know deep down, actually, we don't necessarily feel love of neighbour when we're fasting. Or is that just me? Particularly when it's hot. We get grumpy. And actually, we're reminded of our utter dependence on the grace of God. When we are tempted to feel that we're somehow better than others, we're somehow arrived, actually fasting brings us back to basics. We need God's grace and love. And so there's something very primal about being reminded of that dependence. I think you see both in the Hebrew scriptures and in the New Testament, Jesus with his followers, fasting as a preparation for struggle, a preparation for repentance, a preparation for a time of great need. Jesus himself fasted for 40 days, and that was a place where he was in trial, encountering evil. And I think for Christians there's a sense of times of national and personal need that will come before God and fast and pray and prepare our hearts and listen and seek to be hearing God. I want to close really with not another scripture but a poem by a famous Welsh priest poet called R.S. Thomas. And in one sense, I could talk about the different types of fasting within Christian traditions. So the Lent fast, which I know there are people, Muslims here, that have shared with some of the Lent fasts in sympathy, as there are Christians who have shared with the Ramadan fast this year. We talk of how Catholics may fast each Friday from meat as a remembrance of the crucifixion of that first Good Friday. But I think I'd rather keep to those principles because actually it's not a matter of particular form, but more about the heart and our place in seeking God and being dependent on him. And somehow I think this poem of R.S. Thomas's speaks of that in some way. It's called The Bright Field. I have seen the sun break through to illuminate a small field for a while, and gone my way and forgotten it. But that was the pearl of great price, the one field that had the treasure in it. I realise now that I must give all that I have to possess it. Life is not hurrying on to a receding future, nor hankering after an imagined past. It is the turning aside, like Moses, to the miracle of the lit bush, to a brightness that seemed as transitory as your youth was, but is the eternity that awaits you.
Thank you, Richard. We're already behind time, of course. But then, indeed, man is at a loss with time. So I'm going to quickly two speakers coming together. And I believe that Acharya is going first. Okay, they're rebelling already. It's Mr. Jasin Sharma who's going to discuss a Hindu view of fasting. Jas, please.
Namaste, Gurian Swalaikum. Fasting in Hinduism actually indicates, or probably the same for everybody, indicates the denial of physical needs of the body for the sake of spiritual gains. According to the scriptures in Hinduism, fasting helps create the atonement with the Absolute by establishing a harmonious relationship with the body and the soul. This is a thought to be imperative for the well-being of human being that is nourished by both his physical or her physical and spiritual needs. Hindus believe it is not easy or unceasingly to pursue the path of spirituality in one's daily life. We are hardened by lots of considerations, and the worldly indulgences do not allow us to concentrate on spiritual attainment. Therefore, the worshipper must strive to impose restraints on himself or herself to get his or her mind focused, and one of the formal restraints is fasting. The reason is for the self-discipline. However, fasting is not part of worship in Hinduism as major part of worship, but is a great instrument for self-discipline. It is a training of the mind and the body to endure the hardship that preserves and under the difficulties not to give up the path of righteousness. According to Hindu philosophy, food means gratification of the senses, and to starve these senses is to elevate and the contemplament. When the stomach is full, the intellect begins to sleep, wisdom becomes mute, and the part of body restrains from the acts of righteousness. The different kinds of fast in Hinduism. Hindus fast on certain days during the month of Purnima, which is the full moon, and Ekadashi, which is the 11th day of the fortnight. Certain days of the week is also marked for fasting depending on the individual choices and one's favourite god or goddess. On such day, people fast to appease the god of Shani, which is the Saturn in zodiac signs. Some fast on Tuesdays for auspicious day for Hanuman, the monkey god, as everybody probably known in Ramayana. And some people fast on Fridays for Santoshima. This is to abstain them from thinking negative. Fasting on festivals is common. Hindus all over India and the world observe fast on festivals like Navratri, Shivratri, and Garba Chauth. Navratri is a festival where people fast 9 days. Hindus in West Bengal fast on Ashtami on the 8th day for the festival of Durga Puja. Fasting can also mean abstaining from taking certain things, either in religious take or for the sake of good health. For instance, people believe from taking salt on particular days, as to the excess of the sodium causes hypertension and elevated blood pressure. The Ayurvedic point of view, which also sits in Hinduism for the fasting, the underlying principle behind fasting can be found in Ayurveda. The ancient Indian medical system sees the basic cause of many disease accumulation of toxins material in the digestive system. Regular cleansing of the toxins within the body material keeps one healthy. By fasting, the digestive organs get a rest and the body mechanisms are cleansed and are correct and are functioning correctly. A complete fast is good for health as the occasional intake of water or lemon juice during these periods prevents flotis. Since the human body also explains Ayurveda is composed of 80% liquid and 20% solid, like the Earth's gravitational forces of the moon affects the fluid contents in the body, it also causes emotional imbalance in the body, making some people tense and irritable or violent. Fasting acts as an antidote to this, for it lowers the acid content within the body and helps retain their sanctity. Finally, the pangs of hunger that one experiences during the fast makes one think and only extend one's sympathy towards the destitute who often go without food. In this context, fasting functions as social gains, whereas people share with each other our good feelings to other fellow men. Fasting provides the opportunity for the privileged to give food, grains to the less privileged, and also ease their distress at their time of this moment. Thank you, everybody.
It's my great pleasure to invite Acharya Yadav Samaj to recite for us.
सबको सादर नमस्ते, सलाम अलैकुम. It's very natural as you are sacramented, that feeling comes out very naturally. So you have heard a lot of on fasting by our Jasji, my friend Jasji. I am here to recite a kavita in Hindi. I don't know how many people understand Hindi, but hopefully it is like Urdu, so hopefully you will enjoy. Fasting is called upavas. Upavas in Hindi, Sanskrit. And upavas is very close to upasana. Upasana means meditation, prayer, having communion with God. So, taking these points, I have written some lines in Hindi. उपवास व्रत करना तो धर्मी, उपवास व्रत करना तो धर्मी, अध्यात्म शिखर चढ़ना तो धर्मी, अध्यात्म स्पिरिचुअल, अध्यात्म शिखर चढ़ना तो धर्मी, उपवास पूर्व आहार शुद्ध हो, शुद्ध आहार लेना, उपवास पूर्व आहार शुद्ध हो, ऋत हो, मित हो, हित भोजन हो, थोड़ा लेना चाहिए, शुद्ध लेना चाहिए, और food should be very useful to keep your health sound. दिन में कभी डकार न आए, दिन में कभी डकार न आए, उपवास वास करा तो धर्मी, उपवास वास करा तो धर्मी. You take heavy food and it creates gases, water flows up, gases flows up, and sometimes you pass otherwise gases as well. So we have to be care to have proper food. पाचन शक्ति बढ़ जाएगी, it helps digesting. पाचन शक्ति बढ़ जाएगी, शरीर आरोग्यता पाएगी, शरीर आरोग्यता पाएगी, चंचल मन भी टिक जाएगा, उपवास व्रत बढ़ा तो धर्मी. Your crazy mind will become controlled, and that will help you to have high quality spirituality. सात्विक बुद्धि सात्विक चित्त हो, शुद्ध wisdom, pure wisdom. सात्विक बुद्धि सात्विक चित्त हो, शुद्ध ज्ञान इंद्रियां जागृत हो. All senses is to be pure and awakened. शुद्ध ज्ञान इंद्रियां जागृत हो, अमर आत्मा प्रभु को पाए, अमर आत्मा प्रभु को पाए, उपवास ज्ञान बढ़ा तो धर्मी, उपवास बढ़ा तो ज्ञान बढ़ा तो धर्मी, अध्यात्म शिखर चढ़ना तो धर्मी. And last, उपवास प्यार का पाठ पढ़ावे. So fasting always teach you loving, social and spiritual. Social, you save some food for others, as this Betty taught. कि उपवास fasting social, you save some food for others, and spiritual, it will keep you under control, and it will aid you, it will increase spirituality. You understand about the existence of God. Pray. उपवास प्यार का पाठ पढ़ावे, मन से घृणा दूर भगावे. Hatredness, as we learn, मन से घृणा दूर भगावे, उमेश मन को शांति मिलेगी, उमेश मन को शांति मिलेगी, उपवास विचार बना तो धर्मी, उपवास व्रत करना तो धर्मी, अध्यात्म शिखर चढ़ना तो धर्मी, अध्यात्म शिखर चढ़ना तो धर्मी. So we should keep fasting, and we believe as well, as you have learned on some special days you have spoken here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ajay. We come now to a lady I first saw speaking, explaining the book of Leviticus to Christians. It was a marvellous lecture, and it's always stuck in my mind. The well-known Dr. Chris Hewer once asked me, do you get on well with rabbis? And I said, why? And he said, well, because you Arlims and rabbis all speak the same gobbledygook, don't you? This is our sister, Margaret Jacobi, Rabbi Margaret Jacobi, who I've always found very clear in speech and thought. Margaret?
Assalamu alaikum. And thank you very much for inviting me here and for setting me up. I have to live up to that now. Also, following others, quite a lot of what I say, I think, will echo what others have said about fasting. Fasting isn't a major part of Judaism. Generally, Judaism emphasises enjoying life, appreciating the benefits, thanking God for what we receive. But the Talmud says that we should account in the world to come for anything that we don't enjoy in this world. But there is a time to fast, or there are times to fast. The most important time is Yom Kippur, our Day of Atonement, and there are other fasts of mourning as well, and less important fasts which not everybody observes. But Yom Kippur perhaps tells us most about what fasting means in Judaism. It's said that on Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, we should try to be like angels, removed from the world. And so part of why we fast is to remove ourselves from the world. It's also giving up something as a way of saying sorry. When we make atonement, we want to express that by giving up something, by afflicting ourselves, as the book of Leviticus says, that on Yom Kippur you shall afflict your souls. It's to teach us self-restraint, to teach us that we don't have to grab at food all the time, that we can control our impulses. But most important, and this so much echoes what's been said about the other religions, is to awake compassion in us for those who go hungry every day. And the prophet Isaiah has already been referred to, whose words we read on Yom Kippur, who says, "Is this a fast I choose, that you should just beat your breasts? No, the fast I choose is to feed the hungry and to bring the homeless poor into your homes." So that's what fasting should do. And just as in Islam, which I always find so fascinating, that the parallels, you shouldn't fast if it will make you ill. Pregnant women, for example, shouldn't fast. It's important to look for your health too, and not to endanger it. But fasting should bring us closer both to God and to our fellow human beings in compassion. I was asked also to introduce a song, and I'm not actually reciting a religious hymn. I wasn't quite sure what to read or recite, but a Hasidic song. The Hasids were a movement, I think, very similar to various Islamic mystical traditions, who emphasised joy in serving God and music in a way of approaching God. And one of their great leaders was called Nachman of Bratslav in the 18th century. And he wrote this, that the world is a narrow bridge and the important thing is not to be afraid. And it's been set to music, so I'll sing it for you. It feels very appropriate in these difficult times as we recall the 10th anniversary of the July the 7th bombings, as we read every day of some act of violence around the world. Excuse me. And it's so easy to be fearful of our neighbours, fearful of what's going on in the world. And meeting with people of different religions also can be frightening. And sometimes we feel like we're on a narrow bridge, and if we go too far one way, we lose our identity and what makes us special. If we go too far the other way, we have conflict with each other. But the important thing is to go forward on this narrow bridge and not to be afraid, because meeting with each other can bring joy and friendship. join in with me if you like in just singing the melody. La 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 The world is a narrow bridge, may we not be afraid.
Please, thank you, Rabbi Margaret, but don't applaud her. She'll try and charge us if she thinks she's famous. There's just one or two small things to do. Of course, anything that's done in faith isn't small. Maybe little, but it's great because it's done for the sake of our Creator. And one of these things is I'm supposed to be organising a raffle draw, and as usual, nobody's brought the ticket blanks to me. But that will have to wait. First of all, I'm going to ask a very dear sister, Aram Al-Mamuri, to come and speak about the Al-Mizan Trust. At least, I think she's going to speak about the Al-Mizan Trust. She may speak about almost anything, as she flashes forward like a wild plains eagle.
Never fails to amuse me. Right, we've had some beautiful speakers and some beautiful speeches today talking about the importance of fasting, altruism and indeed charity. So I want to really just talk to you about Al-Mizan Charitable Trust. Firstly, can I say thank you to Al-Mahdi Institute for their support over the last few years, in allowing us to use their venues and in promoting our campaigns. Al-Mizan Charitable Trust is primarily a grant funder. We support disadvantaged families and deprived communities across the whole of the UK, regardless of faith or cultural background. This Ramadan we aim to be distributing over 1,000 food parcels to poor families in the UK who are struggling to buy food and basic necessities. Now, when people first hear about Al-Mizan's work, they ask, well, why do we help people in the UK? And the answer is we believe that charity first begins at home. There are currently over 500,000 children who go to bed hungry every night. And over a quarter of adults miss out on food during the day so they can actually feed other members of their family. And over 1 million people have had to visit a food bank in the last year alone. Now, Britain may be the 6th richest country in the world. Indeed, myself and a friend who went to a food drive recently, and she commented on how sad it was that people in Britain have to use such facilities. And in fact, even though it is the 6th richest country in the world, it also has one of the most unequal economies in the world. All the growth since the recession has benefited those at the top of society, and we're at a point now where 1 in 5 people in the UK live below the official poverty line. These people struggle because of low wages, 0-hour contracts and welfare reforms. I just want to share with you a short report on food poverty in the UK from Oxfam and Church Action Group. They have spoken to people living on 1 meal a day, drinking hot water and lemon to tame hunger pains, trying to think of how they can survive on only £6 a week. And more than 500,000 children, as I said, in the UK live with families who cannot provide just a decent, minimal, acceptable diet. So, why I'm here today? Please help us to deliver the 1,000 food parcels that we have pledged across the UK this Ramadan. You can do this by sponsoring food parcels at £40 a parcel, and a list of what is provided on the website, or indeed come and speak to myself and I can answer your questions. I do have a stall outside as well for anybody who wants to pick up a leaflet or just wants any other information about the charity itself. We also need practical help. For those of you that are here today, next Sunday we're back here at Al-Mahdi Institute where we're actually going to be packing the food parcels. So for those that can provide any time next Sunday, just for a couple of hours a day, we've got 2 shifts from 12 till 2 or 2 till 5. If you can join us to pack those food parcels, we'd be very grateful, and also doing service to the community. So thank you for listening, thank you for having me, and if you have any further questions, please find me throughout the evening. Thank you.
But Aaron, please, come back. Come back. I need a neutral hand. And she's just proven how just and generous she is. And so for one lucky person here, Aaron is going to dip. Do you want blindfolded?
No.
Just pull your scarf down. This is the moment you've all really been waiting for. The hand of fate, divine fate, is going to point at one of you. And this is what you can take away. A whole hamper for the month of Ramadan. Bismillah.
Number 3.
Hang on. Did number 3 make a big bong to the institute? Number 3. It's yours. Somebody will come to, I'm sure. Yes, you may leave the presence of the great dictator. Finally, I'd like to thank everyone here who's come, the speakers, the massed choir of the Al-Mahdi minstrels, all of you, but especially because, looking around the room, I see people who work selflessly throughout the year, in a sense fasting throughout the year, because they deny themselves ease, spare time, spare cash even, to help people who need support. This is a great event, a great opportunity for networking, meeting old friends and people we would really like to be friends with. So you've honoured me, and I'd like to thank you all for that. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good night. Exit stage right.
If I could just have your attention for a couple of moments more, please. No, that's okay, Sheikh, that's okay. There will be, we're obviously invited you here for food, not just to hear people speak, but there will be congregational prayers for whoever wishes to join the prayers outside. But some of us can't wait, so we'll wish for food as soon as the azan is called. So I think there's food in a hall straight ahead of us, and again upstairs. And the congregational prayers will be outside. Our colleagues will help us and direct ourselves to it. So on behalf of the Institute, again, many, many thanks for all of you being here. And we have a few moments until the azan is called. So if I could just add something, a short word of thanks, and first and foremost to God and to you all for having been here in this time of apparent conflict around the world. You know, it's really a privilege to be part of an institute which takes pride in such gatherings, where people of difference can come together, can share of their own traditions, and hopefully we can learn from each other. Take these opportunities of, as Sheikh Amin is mentioning, learning from each other, building bridges, and coming towards better understandings. When we look at the Quran's treatment of difference, it isn't seen as a source of conflict. Difference is seen as something very, very natural to the human condition. And difference is seen as something potential. It's seen as a potential to move beyond our own limitations. Through difference of gender, through difference of language, through difference of cultures, we can start to see beyond our own limitations, to grow in our humanity, to grow in our goodness, if we're willing to look beyond our own limitations. Just reflecting on some of the things which have already been said today, the Quran says, وَلِكُلِّ وِجْهَةً هُوَ مُوَلِّيهَا. Every group has its own direction. Every people have its own form, if you like. فَاسْتَبِقُوا الْخَيْرَاتِ. Now hasten towards goodness. These differences are meant to be a means for us to seek to fulfill that which is beyond us all, that which is shared by all, those lofty human values. And the practice of fasting for Muslims in the month of Ramadan is nothing more than a means to those lofty goals, to that divine pursuit of humankind. And it's reported that Allah Himself has said in these traditions which ascribe to God, that as-sawmu li, fasting is for me. This intimacy which has been pointed to by speakers before. وَأَنَا أَجْزِيٌ بِهِ وَأَنَا أُجَزِّي بِهِ, and I am the reward for it. Fasting is a means towards compassion, of bringing together broken families, of forgiveness, of kindness, of charity, of neighborliness, and of intimacy with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, such that we free ourselves from every other concern than the godliness and goodliness which is within us. And if we could just end with the prayer which Sister Madia kindly mentioned at the beginning and set me up very, very nicely. Those of you who wish could raise their hands and join us in this. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of Allah, the Lord of mercy, the giver of mercy. Allahumma adkhil ala ahli al-kubur as-surur. O Allah, gladden the people of the graves. Allahumma aghni kulli faqir. O Allah, enrich every poor person. Allahumma ashbi' kulli ja'i. O Allah, fulfill the hunger of everyone who needs food. Allahumma aqsi kulli uryan. O Allah, clothe the ones who are unclothed. Allahumma qdi dayna kulli madin. O Allah, fulfill the debts of all those who are stricken with debt. Allahumma farrij an kulli makroob. O Allah, relieve every distressed person. Allahumma rudda kulli ghareeb. O Allah, return every lost traveller. Allahumma fukka kulli asir. O Allah, free every unlawful prisoner. Allahumma aslih kulla fasidin min amur al-muslimin. O Allah, rectify the state of all those who submit to you. Allahumma shfi' kulli mareed. O Allah, heal every sick person. Allahumma sudda fakrina bil kinakh. O Allah, replace our need with your needlessness. Allahumma ghayyir su'a halina bi husni halik. O Allah, change our despicable state through your face of beauty. Allahumma qdi anna ad-dayn. O Allah, fulfill for us our dependency. Wa aghnina min al-faqr, and relieve us from our poverty. Innaka ala kulli shay'in qadir. Surely you are capable of all things. Thank you all very, very much, and I hope you will enjoy the food. Thank you.
We have one more duty.
One more duty.
I do apologise for not introducing you, but your name's down in very small print.
As it should be. As it should be.
We have one photo opportunity. Sister, would you come and join us and collect your prize? Round of applause, please, for the lucky winner. You know, you've made great holiday makers at a holiday camp. Just move across slightly. Let's get a good picture. Thank you very much. The azan will be called now, and as soon as you hear that, please rush to wherever the food is. And rush. We should rush to the benefits that God gives us. and not hang about looking as if we don't need them. So please, enjoy the rest of the evening. We'll